Hey, this is Emily Galvin Almanza, co-founder of Partners for Justice, with your bonus episode on the very juicy history of bail. So, 1,000 years ago, England, crimes are mostly met with financial punishment. In other words, if a person engaged in harm, they would have to pay the person that they harmed. Now, because the punishment for most crimes is money, people start being able to say, hey, I will pay you the money up front. I'm going to go about my life. If you find me not guilty, you give me that money back. Okay. This is the origin of bail. So bail was essentially just a way of prepaying a potential punishment until 1066, when the French invaded England and brought with them really, really harsh corporal punishments. So now, with the punishment not being money, but rather being a beating or worse, people are, of course, much more frightened to come back to court and answer for whatever they're accused of doing. And bail started to become a way to force somebody to be confined if they couldn't buy their own freedom. That continued for about 500 years until the British started to find that really disturbing. And actually in the 1600s passed laws saying, hey, bail is not about keeping people confined. You have to set bail that people can make. Bail is about people being at liberty. So already 1600s England, probably more advanced than the US in certain ways. By the 1970s, the British had completely turned away from the idea that you could profit off somebody else's liberty and had essentially established a no cash bail system. The US, on the other hand, oh my God, they're evolving at the same time. So this is the 1600s. They're totally into the idea of buying freedom because we are a slave nation, and that's a deeply American idea. What happens next is that people start setting themselves up as bail bondsmen. In the 1800s, we see the first person saying, hey, I'll pay your bail for a fee. A cottage industry arises where the British recoil and think, oh my God, this should not be part of the economy. The Americans are like, sweet, this is part of the economy. And now, in 2023, our bail industry is about $2 billion. This is part 2. We just covered how the British were like, oh God, we might be making people pay for their freedom. We should stop doing that. And the Americans were like, sweet, we are getting people to pay for their freedom. That's amazing. We should absolutely keep doing that until we have a $2 billion a year bail bonds industry. And that's really what's happened in this country. More and more often, people who are legally innocent of any crime are being told they have to pay a whole bunch of money if they want to go home to their family while they fight the charges. That's what bail is, a payment for your freedom. Between 1990 and 2009, the number of people who were being forced to make a payment in order to leave jail pre-trial, not convicted of anything, doubled. And the number of people who were being released on a promise to appear was cut in half. And it's gotten to the point where at this point, when we look at the millions and millions and millions of people in our jails, like 9 million people cycle through American jails every year, 65 to 80% of them are there legally innocent, awaiting trial, not convicted of anything. This comes at a really huge cost. For one thing, people who are held in jail become substantially more likely to engage in future crime the longer they are held. For another thing, it's hella expensive. It costs taxpayers like you and me about $38 million a day to pay for innocent people to be held in jails because they can't pay bail. So you might be saying but if we just release them all, won't all hell break loose? Won't there be chaos in the streets? And actually, no. A whole bunch of jurisdictions have tested this, like Washington, D.C. and Santa Clara, California, and now the state of Illinois. And when you look at these studies, what you see is that the vast majority of people have no trouble. They come back to court, they don't get rearrested. About 90% to 99%, no new arrests and no new arrests for anything serious. And that's why it's so weird that we still have cash bail at all.